Hello everyone. Welcome to our CBC documentary viewing. We still have some people trickling in, but as we get started, I want to say hello to everyone here. My name is Adil Mukhi. I am the founder and executive director here at Dr. Interested. We do want to let you know that today we are joined by two amazing panelists, Judy McConnell, who has earned her BSc from the University of Guelph in 2004 and a Clinical Research Associate Graduate Certificate from the Michener Institute in 2008. And now she works and coordinates translational research for the Yakufushu team, who you will see in the documentary, along with our other panelist, Dr. Nicholas Bernards, who has earned an honors BSc in integrated physiology from the University of Newcastle upon time, followed by an MSc in molecular imaging and a PhD University of Paris, SUD. He completed a postdoctoral fellowship at STAR, focusing on image-guided drug delivery, and now oversees research projects in the lab. We are also delighted to be joined by the documentary directors who did an amazing job producing this documentary, Kevin and John. And we are very happy to be joined. I think I see them. Yes, Kevin and Jonathan right there. Hopefully, you guys can see them on your screen as well. And we will invite all of them to say a few words at the end of the documentary, and then give a chance for everyone to have an open Q&A with the panelists we have here today. I know some people are still trickling in, but we'll get started with viewing the documentary. Amazing. And I hope you all enjoyed it just as much as I did. I would now love to ask our panelists to, if they're able to turn on their cameras as I pin them to the screen. Um, and we can get started with the Q&A. And we'll start by asking our panelists to introduce themselves so you can get an idea of who they are. I know I did a slightly rushed introduction at the start, but hopefully this way you're able to learn more about them. Um,
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Nick. I'm a staff scientist under Dr. Yasufuku, and I've had, I just gone through a little bit from physiological into the molecular background, starting in UK to France to now in Toronto.
Hi, I'm Judy. I also work with Nick, and I've been working with Dr. Yasufuku for almost 15 years as a research coordinator. I did my undergrad at University of Guelph, and then did some clinical research training at Michener. And basically, I'm in charge of making sure that all the trials have the proper approvals and make sure the regulations are all being met. And even also, I do see patients to consent them for the studies as well, and sample collection, data collection. So more the administrative side of things for the clinical research.
Thank you both. It's so amazing to have you both here. And if Jonathan and Kevin, if you want to introduce yourselves, I'm not able to pin you, but it'll be all right.
You're good. You're good. You're good. Yeah. So hi, my name is Kevin, one of the directors of their short doc. Did my undergrad, just following the same format. I did my undergrad in civil engineering at the University of Toronto, and turned science documentary filmmaker.
My name is Jonathan. I did my undergrad at U of T, life sciences, and then also, of course, turned into documentary filmmaking.
Yeah, and so we met the Yasufuku team through a promo that we did for U of T. We highlighted another one of their members, Kate Kazlovich. So she was a PhD candidate at the time. She still is. Hopefully she gets her defense soon. But it was great seeing the sort of team and atmosphere and culture of the team, and we immediately was interested in thinking about the greater team and greater story that the work that we're doing. So
when CBC asked us to pitch a science documentary, this one was one of the choices, or one of the teams we presented, and CBC immediately started gravitating towards the sort of work that was done at UHN.
Thanks.
Thank you both. And it's an amazing documentary you've both directed and produced. So with that, we are opening the chat to Q&A. We want to remind everyone that this is going to be recorded so that we can post it later for anyone that wasn't able to attend. With that, please note that if you choose to unmute or open your camera, it will be recorded. So if you don't want to appear in the recording, please use the chat feature, but you're welcome to ask questions by raising your hand or putting it in the chat. And the recording will be used according to the privacy policy and terms and conditions if doctor interested. With that, I'm going to start reading out from the chat, and whoever wants to answer can answer unless it's specific. The first question is, what advice would you give students interested in medical research or healthcare? This one's really general, and if both of you want to take a swing at it, or whoever wants to go first.
Nick, I think you're probably best to answer that one.
Yeah, sure. What advice would I give? Stay flexible. I would say, I think when you go through high school, you kind of have a core set of subjects that you are obliged to go through. Undergrad is kind of similar. You kind of carry on with what you were good at. And once you get to a master's and a PhD is when you start to be able to provoke that curiosity, I think. So I think if people go in with a very firm idea of what they want to do, they might inadvertently set up blinders and potentially miss opportunities.
Yeah. And Judy, if you want to put an answer, up to you.
I guess it kind of depends what they're asking about. I think Nick's better if they're kind of going into the medical research PhD stream kind of thing. But if they're looking for something that I'm doing, which is more assistant side, then I could help. I'm not sure if they can clarify.
Yeah, I'll look for a clarification. If they put it in later, then I will re-ask the question with that. The next question asks, what should students focus on now if they want to enter this field? Seeing that they're talking about research experiences next, I think this is the research field. So if Dr. Bernards, if you have any idea of what they should be focusing on.
Sure, but I would also preface this, like Jay was saying too, it depends on what you mean by research, because I think many times we focus on what's done in a lab, but when we look at the translation, you need the expertise of the clinical trials coordinator to understand how these things work, because there's a whole ethics side that belongs to it too. So there's not just the lab skills, but there's also being able to identify patients as well. So it's quite a broad question, I would say. But I think that core skills on the scientific side are important, but definitely also understand how to work with people.
Thank you. Another question I see, and this one is for Judy. What does your job entail? The student has never heard of it before, so I guess it is not. Yeah.
That's quite common. I have to admit, I didn't really know what it was before I started researching different things. So basically, when I came out of university with a degree in biological science, it's kind of a very broad degree. So I went and worked for an environmental company for 5 years and kind of decided I liked the company, but I wanted to get back into healthcare in some sort of way, but I didn't really want to go back full-time to school to do nursing or anything. But so I looked at Michener Institute, and they have a lot of programs for people who have postgraduate degrees, but more training, so hands-on experience in the hospital, so that they can do different things like X-ray technician or things like that. But they did have a clinical research program. Now it's much more common. So if it is something that you're interested in, you can look. There's lots of different ways you can go about it. I think McMaster has a program. Michener still has a program, and there's someone else in the GTA. I can't remember. It's not U of T, but another school has, maybe Queens has a program. Luckily at the time, Michener had a program where you could do it online, so you can get your certification that way. And then eventually you have to do a written exam to become have the credentials of a clinical research professional. But it's if you're kind of interested in the science and pushing things forward, but in a more administrative role as opposed to kind of creating the protocols yourself, you're kind of assisting people like Nick who are working on their PhDs or the physicians themselves to get things from, benchside to bedside, basically.
Yeah, that is really cool, and it's a really nice way to be involved with the healthcare field, and something that lots of students don't always consider, and that there are so many parts in medicine. The next question I see is, what's been the most challenging obstacle your team has faced? And either one of you can take it.
I'm assuming with regards to this documentary or just in general. Oh, Nick, we both have different perspectives on what the hardest thing was. I don't. I'm trying to think for me. I think right now is something that we're having a hard time with. I mean, we're at kind of a pivotal point with the research. I don't know if Nick, you agree with me that we've done all this work for so many years, but now that we can only take it so far as an academic institution. We don't have the funding to be able to just do what we want. So unfortunately, we have to kind of decide. We've captured grants with this project, but once you get to the point where we could commercialize something, we really have to kind of find out which route we're going to go to push it to the next level.
And I would agree with Judy 100%. Like the research, there's so many things you can control, and you need to. That's part of going through your characterization process. But once you get to the clinical aspect, there's different things that clinicians need and scientists can do, and that bridge is challenging but fun in some cases. But then there's that next step, like Judy's saying, like how do you do that? And funding, we've been very fortunate to be relatively successful in that. But then at the very end as well, there's that final push. Do the people who are funding understand the fundamental need? And that's sometimes challenging to communicate.
Yeah. The next question I see is, how is it managing your personal life with research and work?
I think that kind of depends. Judy and I have very different perspectives potentially, because I would also consider going through a PhD part of work, because realistically you're there as an employee too. And at the same time, you're trying to get results, good or bad. Results are results. So you're there relatively late at night, but you want to know it. So sometimes you end up having a disconnect between what your personal drive is and what your friends are doing. And the friends are important because they help keep you sane. But at the same time, if you really want to understand what you're doing, that's really exciting in of itself. So you'll have times that are ups and downs in terms of just disconnect, I think, with your friends. But in research, I find there's not always so much downtime because it's not a 9-to-5 job. Like it is in terms of when you're potentially there, but you're always thinking of something. And I wonder about XYZ. You read a paper, or you're having a drink with a friend at a pub, and then you end up diverging into scientific talk a lot because it's interesting. So it kind of becomes what your day-to-day is. So it kind of depends on where you are, I would say, a little bit. Like it's fun, but you do get tired, I think. I don't know, Judy, what do you think?
Yeah, again, I think the nice thing about Nick and I is we have different perspectives because we took different routes to get where we are. But I would say like definitely the PhD lifestyle is very different, than what I'm doing. Like I would say I work more a typical 9-to-5 job. But there's pros and cons. There's flexibility in your work, but you also have to kind of be available if you have late night meetings with collaborators in Japan, which happens to us often. But then if I want to take an hour to see my kids' assembly, and so it's really pros and cons, and I love it, and I love that things are always changing. It's not stagnant. You always have new things to learn about, and so it just depends on what kind of career you thrive in. If you thrive in like same thing day in day out 9-to-5, it's not really the way for you, I would say.
Yeah, and there are a lot of different sort of roles that you can have in healthcare, and these kind of all differ in their work hours. along with the amount of time they take from your life. The next question, actually, I'm going to move to a related question, is what are some habits you suggest to develop to avoid burnout?
Habits to avoid burnout?
Yes.
I find you have to kind of get to know yourself to start to see the signs of when you're getting stressed. And sometimes that can be with how you interact with people. You might notice that maybe you're getting a little bit short and that's your patience kind of running thin. And that's not fair to the other person, really. But really, that's a reflection about how you're doing. So I think getting to know how you are and understanding that what your brain needs for fatigue or recovery is different than your body necessarily. So trying to balance those two, I think, is what I would say to pay attention to.
Yeah, and that is really important to make sure that you know how you're feeling at that time. Another question is, what role do you think will AI and new technology play in diagnosis and treatment? So I think that's for Dr. Bernard.
That's a hard question because it's a very open-ended. How good is AI? Well, it's only as good as the fundamental data. So there's a famous study, and I don't have the author's list, where they gave pigeons H&E slides of cancer patients and not. And the pigeons were very good at identifying the cancer slides as well. So that's not artificial intelligence either, but it's pattern recognition is what it comes down to. So I think it'll get pretty good. I don't think it'll get to a point anytime soon where it will replace the need for humans. And the humans is due to experience, really, which is their own database in essence. So it'll be a powerful tool. I don't see it as a threat. It'll be something that we just need to understand what kind of goes into it.
Thank you. And I'm going to add for Judy, what do you think it would play in your role? AI, like what effect do you think it will have on your role in ethics and more of the admin stuff?
Good question, because when they asked that question, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I don't really see or every study is so different. Every need is so different. I can't imagine a system. I mean, we're to the point where things are getting input in online, and like for example, a study now we have specific questions that ask me, do you need this resource, this department, and it shoots off to those departments what, like by that response, it knows what approvals I need and who it goes to. So there is certain things I could see that would be helpful, but I don't know. I can't see how AI would replace even reviewer. Like, you need Health Canada approvals for things. I don't really see how AI could really do that. I have to be a person that I think. I mean, I can't see it just in this short period of time thinking about it. I don't really see the benefit at this point. But
yeah,
ask me in 5 years, it will be different. I don't know.
And it's definitely nice to have like that sort of perspective from your guys' side of how AI is impacting. Because like from students, it looks like it's taking over everything. In reality, there are still a lot of things that are very human centric, where you do need that human on that end of it.
Well, to speak to that, there's one good example. We ran a few very vague. We ran a clinical study where the EBIS that you saw in that documentary that Dr. Yasufuku does, they're starting to create robotic systems. So for users who are newer, they don't know the airways as well as Dr. Yasufuku, it can be really beneficial. You upload a CT scan and it'll guide you to where you need to go instead of having to know every airway, every branch in the lung. But we actually found that Dr. Yasufuku didn't find it beneficial because he's so much better. So it's just like it may benefit, but then to say other people may find it really beneficial. So I think the same thing with AI. It could be beneficial to some, but maybe not to others. So it's kind of hard to say.
Thank you. As we have 6 minutes left, I'm gonna move to the next question. Is it possible or tough to enter in cancer research? If my background is not medical, I'm doing an undergrad with biotechnology. I'm not sure if you can speak to this, but if you can, feel free to.
Go ahead, Nick.
Sure. Yeah. So our two PhD candidates that we have are engineers. So I think that the idea of that you need to do classical sciences for medical is outdated. There's so much crosstalk and benefit from each of the individual fields, and you can't know everything. And the worst thing is you don't know what you don't know. So you have to have people that you're kind of working with. And that's one of the wonderful things, like with Jonathan and Kevin, that they're able to highlight, even for us, the things that they see that we wouldn't see, even just because they're coming from a totally different perspective, background, was interesting to them. So to answer your question, I think there are many different fields that see potential for a solution that the people working on don't capture.
Thank you. As we come to the end of our time, I want to thank Dr. Bernards, Judy McConnell, Jonathan, and Kevin for coming. It's been great both to see the documentary and then hear from those who played such a big part in it. And it has really been amazing having all of you here. On behalf of Dr. Understood, we want to thank you for your time, for your expertise, and for everything you've shared with us today. The recording will be posted, and hopefully everyone will have their questions answered. As we end off, if you guys want to say any last things to the people present, also to people watching the recording, we invite you to.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick. I just wanted to say thank you for everybody that joined and watched us, and I'm glad you liked it. It was made specifically for folks like yourself who are prospective students who are in STEM or in research or in any sort of scientific or engineering field. This is great for us. I love seeing that. There's so many high school students this talented, this knowledgeable, and this interested in science. This is really the reason why we started our careers in documentary filmmaking and science. And shout out to both Nick and Judy. Honestly, like, what you don't see in the doc is all the coordination that needed to happen to film at a hospital like UHN and Toronto General. And so really without Nick and Judy's sort of support and their sort of like help in behind the scenes, this would never have happened. So what you don't see is just the tons and tons of emails and signal chats that we've had throughout for like 2 years of just, hey Nick, hey Judy, could we come by? Could we shoot here? Especially, I think for Judy as well, I think she had the distinct pleasure of dealing with some of the sort of, more challenging permissions. And then when we were in the edit as well, right? Like we wanted to be accurate with our science, and it's like, hey Nick, hey Judy, can you fact check this? Can you please let us know that this or that? So really, like, as much as we were holding the cameras, but we really wouldn't have even been able to even get in the room or even meet Dr. Yasufuku without Nick or Judy kind of supporting us.
And I hope, as you sort of see the doc, you obviously there's only several central voices that are talking, but there's a lot of people that aren't talking, and the people in the background aren't silent, and they're also a part of the team. And the unfortunate side effect of covering documentaries or covering any sort of work in such a short period of time is that inevitably you have to sort of focus on certain voices. But I hope, and I think a lot of the students here are picking this up, that there are a lot of roles in any sort of field and space, and within, let's say, this group, this lab, or even research in general, the ways in which you can contribute with any kind of background is enormous. And so there's a huge variety of roles you can play.
Yeah,
all just as valuable.
Yeah, I think like the funny thing, to just hop off that last question, the person who asked, like, did you need like a specific research background to do cancer research? The student that we were covering, Kate Kazelvich, she's a civil engineer that turned into a PhD candidate for the Yasufuku lab. So you can find ways into whatever field you desire with whatever background. Like I'm also a civil engineer, but turned science communicator. So it's kind of funny seeing two civil engineers kind of completely go off the rails.
Thank you. Thank you everyone that joined, and a lot of virtual claps for all of our panelists. We really appreciate your time as this meeting comes to an end. Thank you for everyone that joined us, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take it easy. Bye, Jonathan. Bye, Kevin. See you later, Judy.
Bye, Nick. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.